Court is now adjourned in Lenawee County as the second week of the Dale Warner murder trial comes to an end, but there is still much more ahead. Thank you so much for joining us here on WTOL 11 Plus. I'm Jeff Smith.
And I'm Kaylee Marintet. This is a case our team has been following since Dale's wife, Dee, first went missing nearly 5 years ago. Tonight on WTOL 11 Plus, we're taking you inside the courtroom after what's been a jam-packed week of testimonies and uncovering many details for the very first time.
Yeah, plus in just a little bit, we're going to be joined by former Lucas County Judge and Prosecuting Attorney Gary Byers to give you more in-depth legal analysis and perspective as to where this trial stands right now.
But first, through just 4 days of trial this week, jurors heard from law enforcement, technology experts, friends, families, and today, farm employees about the state of Dale and Dee's marriage and the investigation into Dee's disappearance and death.
Melissa Andrews begins our extended coverage tonight in Adrian, breaking it all down.
More testimony wrapped up this week in the Dale Warner murder trial, with jurors hearing from technology experts, family, friends, and law enforcement, and today farm employees about the state of Dale's marriage and the investigation into Dee Warner's disappearance and death. Earlier in the week, jurors also heard body camera video and testimony from Deputy Austin Hall. He told the jury Dale Warner described an argument with Dee on April 24th, 2021, rating it a 5 out of 10 and saying they've had worse fights. Warner said Dee developed a migraine and stayed on the couch while he worked. Hall testified Warner denied confronting Dee about affairs, but speculated she may have been. Investigators told him he was a huge potential suspect, and detectives documented no visible scratches on his body. Witnesses described a strained marriage. Dustin Lawley testified Dee appeared more relaxed when Dale wasn't around and said Dale made degrading comments. A massage therapist described bruising on Dee, including marks resembling handprints. A close friend said Dee spoke about divorce the day before she disappeared. Under cross-examination, witnesses acknowledged they never saw Dale physically harm her. Day 4 focused on digital evidence. A Michigan State Police cell phone specialist testified that Dee's phone last connected to a tower near the Munger Road property at 7:14 a.m. on April 25th. She received 75 calls that day and made none after the afternoon of April 24th. A General Motors expert testified more than 50 vehicle location requests were made from an iPhone in the weeks before her disappearance, but said there's no way to determine who is using the device. On day 5, Detective Daniel Dreyer detailed the 2024 discovery of Dee's remains inside an anhydrous tank on property linked to Warner. The medical examiner testified she died from multiple blunt force injuries combined with strangulation and ruled it a homicide, estimating her death occurred on or about April 25, 2021. Today, day 6, jurors heard from Warag Farms employees. Ivan Boyd walked the jury through surveillance video from April 25th, identifying Dale operating heavy equipment throughout the day and later carrying welding gear. Boyd testified welding was typically done in the old or new shop, never in the spray barn, where there was also an anhydrous tank seen in one video. Longtime employee Jim Hawkins testified he prepares anhydrous tanks but has never cut one open, placed an out-of-service tag on one, or seen welding done in the spray barn. An out-of-service tag was found on tank number 34, the tank where Dee's body was discovered. The defense continues to challenge the timeline, the digital data, and witness accounts. We're back in court on Tuesday at 9 a.m. Reporting in Adrian, Melissa Andrews, WTOL 11.
You can be the first to hear about the major developments in this case. All you have to do is get out your phone and text the word trial to the number you see on your screen. That's 419-248-1100. Then our team will give you a link to all the stories and trial updates as we get them.
All right, from there, joining us now with some legal insight into all of this is former municipal court judge and former Lucas County Commissioner Gary Byers. We appreciate you once again. You were here last week as we were getting into the very beginning stages of this. And I wanted to know from you, because as we have seen this play out this week, there's been this playbook by the prosecution. Help our viewers understand how you put your game plan together.
Sure. When I was a prosecutor, I would try to make it as logical as I could for the jurors. Those are the people that are deciding the case, and you want to lay it out in a logical fashion. You sometimes follow chronologically. You try to call witnesses so that you're not going to waste the jury's time, and you'll have them in a logical order. Sometimes witnesses...
Let me stop you there, because I've got a lot of questions about this, Gary, and I'm wondering, do you think to yourself as an attorney, what can my jury handle? How do I frame this? Because as you said, maybe go chronologically. That's easier for them to understand the timestamp behind everything.
Sure, and we've talked about this before. This is a very complicated case, and so it's circumstantial. They're trying to build the building blocks so the jury can see a complete picture, or as complete as possible, of what occurred. They are a collective recollection. The jury itself will recall among themselves what is important and what is not. And so as a prosecutor, you want to lay that out as logically as possible you can. Again, the law is nothing but common sense made difficult. You need to make it as commonsensical as you possibly can. And sometimes you're good at that, and sometimes you're less good at it. Depends on the day. Some witnesses flow logically. Having this week the investigator.
All of these witnesses that we see playing out in this Lenawee County courtroom, have they been told these are the questions you're going to receive? This is what I'm going to ask you. I guess, are they prepped?
Well, I don't know if I would say prepped.
Okay.
They usually have a discussion. They'll meet with the prosecutors once or twice or more if it's critical. But like the investigators, those are witnesses that have testified many, many times. They're people that you've worked with over the years. And usually you'll have a meeting and talk about things, but you don't actually play act the testimony. You kind of go through that.
I think I was wondering more about the family members, the nanny, the welders, the people that worked on the farm.
Sure. I mean, the direct examination is, I could have a direct examination of you right now, and you sort of will lay forth the facts and let them tell their story. And as long as you're familiar with what their story is going to be, you just sort of move through direct examination and try to avoid leading questions as much as possible.
I want to go back to the stacking question. We were talking about that before we came on, and how you kind of front load or back load kind of those wow moments for the jury. Is there any rhyme or reason to any of it?
Well, there are not as many wow moments in a case as you think they are. It's not like you see on TV where you watch the crime occur and then you see the court action.
You can't handle the truth.
Right. Being a juror is hard work. It's boring sometimes. They have to sit there for day after day, and they have to focus. The fatigue, I've talked to jurors after a trial, and they are just so exhausted because they focus on the testimony and what's being said, and jurors are trying to do the best they can. They want to do the right thing, whatever that is, and it's hard work. And so I tended to sort of end with a pop at the end of the case, of the testimony, before the defense case, and I would try to sort of build up to that crescendo, but there's many ways you can do it.
I wanted to talk you through, we haven't seen you since last week, and on day 4, there was, and as I'm reading from my notes here, my computer is giving me fits, but day 4 you had more of a cell phone data analysis testimony. They talked with OnStar representatives, a GM byproduct, where they're actually tracking what happens with the car, opening locks, finding out where the car is, that kind of thing. Personal testimony from a former assistant. Then they bring on MSP on day 5, lead detective, medical examiner's findings. That fell earlier this week as well. And then, of course, day 6 today, farmhands, those who were there, watched the inner workings of not only Dale's work day in and day out, but some of the more peculiar things they picked up on.
Sure. I mean, from what I can tell, the prosecution's theory is that this homicide occurred and then he was trying to cover it up. And it's that cover-up that they're sort of laying out for the jury as best they can. And they're pointing to things that just don't quite make sense. I found it very interesting, the sunburn effect. that welders will sometimes get if they weld in short sleeves. And the photographs of him with sort of sunburnt arms shortly after the D went missing. Those types of things, also the weld on the tank, that it was not a custom weld, that it was something that was added
and today's testimony, they showed a photograph of him to jurors. He's carrying around basically a sanding tool. And they said what they were asking one of the persons on the stand, what's that used for? They said, well, you sand down before you weld. So I think they were trying to make sense of what they were seeing for.
And you can't answer every fact, but as a prosecutor, you don't have to answer every fact.
We're getting ready to wrap up here. I wanted to ask you, as a judge, we're talking about the jury sitting there taking this all in. As a judge, what are you doing sitting there at the desk?
You're making sure the rules are being followed, okay? And if questions are inappropriate or are not allowed by the rules of evidence, there's an objection, you rule on it and move on. Your job is to try to make sure the evidence is as clean going to the jury as it possibly can be.
Gary, as always, great insight. We appreciate it as we kind of dive into this more and give better legal analysis here on WTOL 11 Plus. Thank you, sir.
You bet, Jeff.
We hope to see you soon. Before we wrap up, we want to bring Kaylee back in with a look at what could be next in the trial. Kaylee?
Lots of information there. Thanks, guys. Well, the courtroom will be packed once again Tuesday morning as the trial enters week 3. It all picks back up at 9 o'clock. We're told it will be another day of witness testimony. The prosecution is expected to call more witnesses, but it's not clear exactly who will be called. That information is not shared. Keep in mind, this trial is expected to last several weeks, and the state is still in the early phases of laying out its timeline and evidence. You can watch the entire trial live right here on WTOL 11 Plus Tuesday, starting at 9 and all the way until court is adjourned for the day. Until then, you can stream Hidden in Plain Sight, the disappearance and discovery of dee-Warner, anytime on WTOL 11 Plus. 11 Investigates sat down with Dee's family and broke down the entire investigation in our special 30-minute presentation. That's it for us tonight. Make sure to follow us on all your favorite social media platforms and download our free WTOL 11 News app right on your phone to get all the breaking news alerts and updates in this trial sent straight to you. Thanks for joining us. Have a good weekend.